Most people think powerful people are loud. They imagine luxury, attention, constant validation, a life designed to be seen, but history shows something stranger. Some of the most dangerous empire builders move almost invisibly. No public drama, no desperate need to prove themselves, no obsession with applause. While everyone else is talking, posting, flexing, and competing for attention, they're quietly building systems that eventually control industries, culture, money, even people. And the unsettling part, by the time the world notices them, it's already too late to catch up. So what creates a person like that? Why are certain individuals willing to disappear for years chasing something nobody else can see yet? Why do they tolerate isolation, obsession, pressure, and uncertainty better than most people ever could? Because the psychology behind silent empire builders is very different from what society teaches us success looks like. And once you understand it, you start seeing these people everywhere. Most people never realize how addicted they are to being noticed. Not money, not success, not even happiness, attention. And that's the first thing that separates people who quietly build empires from everyone else. They don't treat attention like oxygen. In many cases, they see it as a distraction, something expensive, something dangerous. While average people crave visible progress, likes, praise, validation, instant recognition, silent builders become obsessed with something far less emotional. Leverage. That mindset shows up again and again throughout history. Warren Buffett spent decades living in the same relatively modest house in Omaha while building one of the most powerful investment empires in modern history. Jeff Bezos was known in Amazon's early years for reinvesting aggressively instead of creating the image of luxury people expected from wealthy founders. Even Jensen Huang spent years building quietly before artificial intelligence suddenly pushed NVIDIA into global dominance. The pattern is surprisingly consistent. The loud phase usually comes after the empire exists, not before it. Psychologists often connect this behavior to delayed gratification, a trait heavily studied after the famous Stanford marshmallow experiments. The basic idea was simple. People who can resist short-term rewards often perform better long-term across multiple areas of life. But empire builders take this to another level. They delay not just pleasure, but recognition itself. That's psychologically brutal. Because humans are social creatures, we naturally want reassurance that we matter. We want evidence that our effort is working. Most people quit not because the work is impossible, but because nobody claps while they're struggling. Silent builders operate differently. They learn to survive emotionally without external validation, and that creates an enormous competitive advantage. While other people burn energy trying to look successful, these individuals redirect that energy towards skill acquisition, systems, networks, discipline, and compounding. They understand a principle most people intellectually know but emotionally reject. Small actions repeated privately for years become terrifyingly powerful. That's why many elite performers become extremely protective of their focus. Studies in cognitive psychology repeatedly show that constant interruptions reduce deep work performance and long-term productivity. Yet modern culture rewards interruption, notifications, trends, opinions, constant visibility. Silence becomes rare, and rare things become valuable. There's also another psychological trait that appears frequently in empire builders: emotional detachment from immediate social approval. That doesn't mean they don't feel emotions. It means they stop allowing emotions to control strategic decisions. Look at founders, athletes, political operators, or elite investors during periods before their breakthrough. Many experience years of uncertainty, criticism, or even humiliation. Some are mocked before becoming respected. Society usually celebrates the result while ignoring the psychological endurance required to survive the invisible phase, because the invisible phase is where most people collapse. Nobody talks enough about that stage. The years where nothing looks impressive, where friends doubt you, where family members quietly think you're unrealistic, where the world gives you no evidence your sacrifices will pay off. That period destroys people emotionally because humans are wired to seek certainty. Neuroscience research shows uncertainty increases stress responses in the brain. We crave predictability because unpredictability feels threatening to survival itself. But silent empire builders train themselves to function inside uncertainty for unusually long periods of time. That's one of their superpowers. And interestingly, many of them become obsessed with control, not over people at first, but over themselves. Their routines become disciplined. Their environments become intentional. Their habits become structured. Not because discipline sounds motivational, but because they understand something most people discover too late. Freedom is usually built through temporary self-restriction. The athlete restricts comfort, the entrepreneur restricts lifestyle inflation, The investor restricts impulsive decisions, the creator restricts distractions. To outsiders, this behavior can even look boring, antisocial, excessive, sometimes unhealthy. But psychologically, they're often playing a completely different game than everyone around them. Most people optimize for comfort today. Empire builders optimize for positioning tomorrow. And once somebody becomes psychologically attached to long-term positioning instead of short-term emotional rewards, their behavior starts looking almost inhuman to ordinary people. Because they stop asking, "How do I feel right now?" and start asking, "What will this become in 10 years if I keep going?" That question changes everything. Because once someone becomes obsessed with long-term compounding, patience stops feeling like suffering. It starts feeling strategic, and this is where silent empire builders become difficult to compete with. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of consistency because they judge progress emotionally. If results don't appear quickly, motivation disappears. But psychologically, empire-minded individuals often detach motivation from action entirely. They don't wait to feel inspired. They build systems that continue operating regardless of mood. That's why many highly successful people appear repetitive. Their routines look almost robotic from the outside. Wake up, work, learn, refine, repeat over and over again. Not because they enjoy monotony, but because they understand mastery is usually hidden inside repetition. There's also a darker side to this psychology that people rarely discuss. The ability to build in silence often requires an unusual tolerance for loneliness. When someone spends years focused on a vision other people cannot yet understand, emotional distance naturally grows. Conversations become harder. Priorities stop matching, relationships shift. In many cases, silent builders begin feeling disconnected from normal social validation because their identity becomes tied to future outcomes rather than present approval. And historically, that pattern appears constantly. Nikola Tesla became consumed by his inventions to the point of isolation. Elon Musk has openly discussed extreme work schedules and periods of intense pressure while building multiple companies simultaneously. Even leaders like Steve Jobs were known for obsessive focus that often came at personal cost. That doesn't mean obsession automatically creates greatness. Plenty of obsessive people fail. But nearly every large-scale empire requires a level of sustained focus most people psychologically struggle to maintain because the modern world trains attention to become fragmented. Every platform competes for your concentration. Every notification interrupts depth. Every trend pressures people to react instantly. Silence feels uncomfortable now because many people associate stillness with irrelevance, but empire builders often weaponize silence. Silence protects plans before they're ready. Silence protects focus from outside opinions. Silence protects confidence during fragile stages of growth. And maybe most importantly, silence allows observation. Many powerful individuals spend more time studying than speaking. They watch human behavior carefully. They understand incentives, patterns, weaknesses, timing. In psychology, this connects to high levels of delayed emotional reaction, the ability to observe without impulsively responding. That trait becomes incredibly powerful in business, leadership, negotiation, investing, and influence because emotional people react. Strategic people calculate. And over enough years, calm calculation tends to outperform emotional chaos. But there's one final psychological shift that truly separates silent empire builders from everyone else. They stop seeing time the way ordinary people do. Average people think in days, successful people think in years, empire builders think in decades. That changes how they handle failure, embarrassment, rejection, criticism, temporary loss. What destroys another person emotionally might simply feel like a small event inside a much larger timeline. And once somebody adopts that mindset, they become extremely difficult to discourage because they no longer need immediate proof to continue. They believe before the evidence appears. That's the real psychology behind people who build empires in silence. Not confidence, not motivation, not luck, but the rare ability to stay committed long enough for invisible progress to become undeniable reality. And maybe the most unsettling part is this. Right now, somewhere around the world, there are people quietly building skills, networks, companies, technologies, audiences, and influence while nobody is paying attention to them yet. But one day, everyone will, and the world will call their success sudden. If this video made you think differently about ambition, discipline, or the people silently building around you, then don't just leave with agreement. Leave with awareness. I want you to comment the one trait you think matters most for building something extraordinary in silence, because the answers people give might reveal more about human nature than the video itself.